I can't coach in this climate.
Players always get paid more than coaches. So what's the problem?
I can't coach guys who are making more than me.
Ooh.
I can't coach guys that are being paid because I'm afraid they're not going to be hungry.
These guys and girls on these college campuses, their stomachs are touching their back right now. Pay them their money.
Welcome, everybody. I'm glad you took some time out of your busy day to join us for the Mike Jarvis podcast. And you know what? It's actually time in. Let's go.
Coach, before we begin,
yes,
I got something that I want to share with you. I don't know if you guys know that I did a poll on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys see it?
No, I didn't see it.
Did you see the poll?
Well, you know what? I heard about it.
All right. So what I did on Instagram, I polled everyone who commented, and we had about 5,000. Well, we didn't have about. We had exactly 5,393 responses on the poll.
Wow.
And the question was, this is from the first episode. Who is really the all-time scoring leader? Now, obviously, we know who the all-time scoring leader is LeBron James, obviously.
Come on, man.
But we know that people got their opinions. I just wanted to see what people thought. And so I did put 3 people on there. And the 3 people was obviously Jeffrey Jordan. Then I put...
Michael?
Yeah, I put Michael on there. I put LeBron James on there, obviously, because he's the guy. And then I put Kareem Abdul-Jabbar on there.
Oh, yeah.
For the old heads.
Okay.
So you're saying the question is who's the all-time scoring leader or who's the best player of all time?
The question, all I said was who is really.
Yeah.
That's how I framed it. So people could be like, oh, yeah, LeBron James did this, but he's not really because of X, Y, Z.
Okay.
Everybody got their arguments for
Listen,
that.
I'm going to say this.
Go ahead.
Men lie. Women lie.
The numbers
don't lie. If the numbers say LeBron James is the number 1 scorer of all time in the history of the NBA.
No, it is what it is. But
it is what it is.
But keep in mind, a lot of people, their argument is he's not the best scorer, that kind of thing, because, you see what I'm saying? Because obviously,
you're
because of
penalizing
averages.
him for longevity.
No, I know, I understand. I'm not saying it's me. I'm saying everybody else. Everybody got their opinion. I just put the polling out there. This is what the world is saying. Okay. This is not what I'm saying. So on Instagram, it turned out that 51% of the people out there on Instagram really believe that in terms of scoring ability, that Michael Jordan is the greatest. All right?
Okay.
48% of the people out there on Instagram, according to this poll, believes that LeBron James is basically the greatest scorer ever. All right?
Okay.
And then we have 2% of those people who believe that Kareem was the greatest scorer that they've ever experienced or seen.
Okay.
So this is just what the numbers are saying, and I thought it was pretty interesting. And we had a lot of people show up to respond to this. I thought it was interesting.
I would say Michael Jordan, as far as scoring the basketball, is hands down the best scorer of the basketball this game has ever seen.
Right. But keep in mind, the way I framed the question is why they answer that way, because when you read the question, you're thinking, well, who's really? I would say it's MJ, because he's the best person I've ever seen score the ball. That's kind of how they took the question, which was intentional. But to show you what people think.
The most unguardable shot in the history of the NBA is that sky hook.
Oh, I thought you was gonna say the fadeaway. I'm like,
Abdul-Jabbar was that sky hook. Nobody could guard that shot.
I agree.
So as far as scoring and being able to put the ball in the basket, he has to be in the top 3.
James Harden.
Let's not talk about James.
Please.
He's not in the conversation.
I know how could you even bring his name up? But
But James Harden is a great scorer, though.
He is.
Don't leave him out that conversation.
There's levels to this thing.
No, 100%.
There's levels to this thing.
I'm not saying he's up there with MJ and Kareem and LeBron. I'm just saying he's a great
let's
scorer.
move on.
Yeah,
go ahead.
We're going to move on. We got a subject to get to, but I just wanted to start with that. I wanted to give a shout out because I think, if I'm not mistaken, the real Jamie Foxx commented on I think it was the same poll or one of the things that one of the reels that we put out there. I thought it was kind of interesting.
Well, you know what? If he
so shout out to
Jamie Foxx.
And if Jamie Foxx is watching this, or if he wants to participate anytime, he's welcome. I had the opportunity to actually coach against Jamie Foxx down at Miami in their fantasy basketball camp. And I tell you what, Jamie, no disrespect, he wasn't a great player. I'll tell you what, he was a great competitor, and he was a great team guy.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
I have never met Jamie Foxx, but I have a feeling that this dude gives 151%.
That's right.
In everything he does.
Amen.
In terms of entertainers.
Oh, hands down.
I don't think I've ever seen a guy who can entertain like he does. Like when you watch a Jamie Foxx movie, like if it's a serious movie, you forget he's a comedian. Then when you watch a comedy show by Jamie Foxx, you forget he's an actor. He draws you in, and I think he's the most talented.
I think he's the most talented person as far as entertainer in the history of the world. Honestly, here's why I say that. This guy, he can sing, he can act, he can write, and not only just that, he's a stand-up comedian.
Right.
He has not only, he plays his own instruments when he's singing.
That's crazy.
So this guy's on a whole different level, man.
A different level. And the thing is, it's not so much that he's the only one who can do all those things, but no one has ever done all those things.
He does it with excellence, man.
Right.
He does. He takes it to a whole nother level. He's won Grammys. He's won Oscars. This guy is legit. Yeah. So shout out to Jamie Foxx.
For sure.
Amen.
For sure.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, so today's subject is basically the NIL, and I wanted to, because I don't know much about it. You're here, Coach, because you're the brains behind this operation. You're the guy.
Oh yeah, thanks, brother.
I just wanted to know, first of all, explain to me and to the people out there, what is the NIL?
Well, the NIL has basically taken college athletics to the professional level, because now players in college, basically in every sport, are getting paid to play. And they're getting paid because of the amount of money that's made off of their name, their image, and their likeness. NIL. Sports has changed forever with the NIL. We're going to talk about the different levels. We're going to talk about how it's structured. We're going to talk about how much money some of these guys are making, and how professional college athletics now is. But name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
And forever, for so long, college athletes did not get compensated, and yet they did with an education, which most people will tell you today is still the most valuable thing that they ever going to get, is their education. But everybody needs cash.
But Coach, let's be real here.
Yes.
These college programs was doing NIL before NIL was a thing.
You had people, you had players, and I've known many of them personally, that were being paid in one way or another. When I was, in fact, my first recruiting trip, I was recruiting a kid from Schenectady, New York, high school phenom, 6'9" player. And I remember going to his high school and meeting with the principal. And the principal said, "Coach, you're wasting your time." Now, I was coaching at Northeastern University, and we were just really a low Division I. And the coach said, he's not going to that level. He's going to a higher level because he's going to get something. And what he got was a convertible automobile. Whatever year that was, it was like 1970. I want to say around 1970. And he got a 70 convertible.
Wow.
That was there waiting for him the first day he showed up in college. So guys were being paid in different ways. Some were being paid with automobiles, some were being paid in cash. There were some schools, because they had to be very creative about how they paid their players. They would put money into a debit card, and if the kids played really well, they'd be pleasantly surprised. If they didn't, some days they'd go there and put the card in. It would say, sorry, there's no money in the card.
Before the NIL, it was, like you said, it was illegal.
That's right.
So what was the penalty if they got caught?
Well, the penalty really would always go back to the school, to the coaches. And there would be, in some cases, it might cost a guy his job, because it was illegal basically to give the kid anything.
You couldn't even buy them a meal.
No.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, and so what schools did was they had to become very creative about how they put a couple of dollars into the kid's pocket.
Right. Because most of the kids, I mean, your top athletes are coming from, I hate to say it this way, but they coming from the slums.
A lot of kids are coming from socioeconomically deprived backgrounds, no money. I mean, many of them, they're lucky to even be able to get to college. I mean, just think of this. I mean, like when you're recruiting a kid, you can fly them in, put them up in a nice place, a hotel, what have you, spend ridiculous amounts of money on food, entertainment. But but a kid, when he signed to come to college, it was all on him. He had to find his own way to the college. Transportation was not part of the scholarship. So you had kids that basically, they would. I remember once I had a kid coming from South Carolina to play. They took up a collection to him for him. Ronnie Moses, I'll tell you, Ronnie Moses from Pleasantville, South Carolina, was coming to Boston University in Boston, Massachusetts. They took up a collection for Ronnie before he left home, and they sent him away with that amount of money. He arrived.
Now who took up this collection? The church?
His people in his community, church members, school members. And when he came, I'll never forget. I met him at the airport at baggage claim, and the thing's going around and around and around and around. It stops, and I said, "Ronnie, where's your bag?" He says, "Coach, I didn't know you were waiting for the luggage." He says, "Because this bag I have over my shoulder, that's my bag." So he left home with his clothes almost in like I don't know,
like a little duffel, not even
like
a duffel bag.
Like
backpack.
To come to Boston, Massachusetts.
Wow.
Coming out of 85, 90 degrees.
That means he didn't even have a coat.
He didn't have a coat.
Yeah.
He didn't have winter clothing. So I mean,
So now that means you could lose your job if you bought this kid a coat.
Yes, I could.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I probably should have, because I bought him a coat.
Yeah.
And I bought him some long john underwear.
Let's go.
And then we took up, we canvassed people, to basically make donations so he could have things to wear. Now,
that's awesome.
He says, I got plenty of money, Coach. He had $22.
Wow.
$22 to his name.
Wow.
And to him, that was a lot of money, because that was probably the most amount of money he had for a long, long time. It's commercial time. If you're looking for a school that is biblically based, a school that's affordable, a school that is in one of the greatest cities in the world, in Deerfield Beach, Florida, look no further than South Florida Bible College. You'll get a great education. You'll be around great people, and trust me, you will be prepared for life. To get more information, go to sfbc.edu/coach, and you will be very, very happy you did. But that's how it was. And I remember coaching, and I'm on the board of the Coaches Association, and we were talking about how do we help these kids. In the old days, they called it laundry money. How do we help these kids have enough money so they could do their laundry?
Yeah.
Wow. How do we help these kids have enough money so maybe they could go to a movies or maybe go to McDonald's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And it was a different world. Now, these kids are pulling up in Mercedes-Benz and Rolls Royces.
Yeah, that's the thing. You all right, so we talk about one end of the spectrum where you can get in trouble for helping an athlete who don't have anything, right?
That's right.
And then we skip the whole helping them get on their feet and taking care of them and nurturing them and developing them and growing them, and jumped right into giving them way more than they need. Now, that's my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's my opinion. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong, because I'm sure later on we'll start talking about, like, you know, whether we support this whole idea of the endorsements and all the money that they're getting, which I could care less. Make your money. But I think sometimes it does hurt the community if they don't know how to handle it. That's just me.
Oh, yeah.
But with that, we skip the whole nurturing and developing these players and keeping them focused on their studies and keeping them focused on, basically things that they need to focus on. And we've just poured out all this money on them. And it feels like, I can't say that I know this because I'm not in the college sports realm right now, but I'm sure they give them classes on how to handle their money and stuff like that. But I think it could, an 18-year-old kid just coming into college, and let's just say they just never had, you know, $20 to their name before, and all of a sudden now they're walking in millions.
Yeah.
So could that be damaging to an athlete?
Well, my mother-in-law had a great saying, and I know you guys have heard it in many different ways, but too much of anything, and that includes money, too much of anything is good for nothing.
That's right.
So, you know, it's always, how do you handle what you have? You know, if you're handsome and debonair like the three of us are, how do you handle the good looks that the good Lord gave us? How do you handle the great environment that we're in? I mean, how do you handle anything?
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're not careful, you know, I mean, let's face it, you know, we all need to be humble, and yet sometimes we have certain things, certain gifts, and if we don't handle them correctly, and that includes money,
right,
it can be very dangerous.
I think we put too much pressure on the coaches to manage these student athletes and help them manage their finances. Coaches are not financial advisors, you know?
No.
True.
I think these players being raised the right way, it's like, who raised you, essentially?
Right.
Being raised the right way and knowing how to spend your money and being able to have parents at home or family members at home that can teach you the ways on how to really use your money and put it in strategic places to have your money grow for you.
Right.
You have to have that upbringing. So if you have someone who has not had that upbringing, and then you give them millions of dollars, then that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. I can remember when I was in the Air Force, I was 18 years old, and I enlisted into the Air Force. That was the first time I've ever had like a paycheck that was kind of like for a grown man. But I realized, you know, my paycheck was going towards Jordans. I had me some jerseys.
So you ain't start your Roth IRA right there.
Roth IRA? What's that? Right? Right?
Yeah.
But listen, it wasn't just me. It was all my guys. Never had money, but we're all getting paid. Now, this is coming straight out of high school and then coming out with nothing to my name, even though my parents would try to help me manage it from a distance. I'm just picturing what it looks like with $1 million in my pocket.
Well, you know, we need to talk about, okay, so how much money is some of these guys getting? What are schools doing to make sure that those kinds of things you're talking about don't happen?
Right.
And whether a coach wants to or not, he has to basically be responsible for making sure that whether it's N.I.L, whatever it is being done in such a way that it only enhances the kid and doesn't harm him.
Right.
So he has to be involved in making sure that there are money management programs,
right,
that kids are taught what their tax liabilities are going to be, what investing means, and actually help guide them along with, because they also have another thing that we're going to talk about is the fact that now kids have agents. Now they're not penalized like they were in the old days, because they were considered to be amateurs, they could not have professional agents. Now they have agents, and the agents are the ones that basically help them get even more money than what they're receiving through the N.I.L.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, there's the N.I.L. Payments which come in, and like I said, we'll talk about how that's all set up, and then there's money even beyond that, and in terms of endorsements,
right?
Okay, whether it be from a sneaker company or a clothing company or whatever it is.
Now, I pulled up a list of the top 10 in terms of, the amount that they get paid. And from the person who was 10 on the list goes to Alabama, basketball player. He's making $2 million, right? And then we go on the top of the list, Colorado football player, who's making. This is just the evaluation.
Projections,
right? So 5.8 million.
Okay,
right.
Now that's what I think you were looking at, and we got to make a distinction here. I think what you were looking at is, okay, what's the total amount of money that a kid can make from endorsements,
right,
etc. That, and I thought that was it. That's basically the money that these guys got was all based on that. But the way it's set up now is at each school, when there's different levels. So you've got, just like in college athletics, you've got the low tier, you got a middle group, the mid majors, and then you got the big boys, the major players. The further up you go, the more money there is. Just like, after all that, you want to get to the pros where the big money is. But right. In college, it's in tiers. So, like, for example, I was speaking with some coaches that coach at lower levels as to try and get an idea of how much money they have in their pot. So they have at each of these schools what they call collectives,
right?
Which is the group that basically raises funds that go into a pot, and out of that they pay the athletes based on a 1 year at a time agreement. They agree to a price.
Right.
The player
sign a contract. This is how I'm gonna
right. They have a contract.
Right.
Okay. And at the lower levels, schools now, they may have $250,000, $300,000 in this pot. So maybe at a low-level school, kid might be getting $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. The higher up you go, the more the bigger the pot is, and the more money players are paid out of that pot. So, for example, in basketball, if you're at a school, and the number that I hear mostly that exists now is like at a big time basketball program, they may have a $10 million, for example, that they now can use to pay their players out of this collective.
Now, is that collective for $10 million just for the basketball team, or is that for all of the programs of the school?
Well, at some schools, there's a collective that basically has money in it for all the different, or at least for some of the sports.
Yeah.
Might be basketball, men's basketball, women's basketball, might be lacrosse or, soccer, what have you. But at the big schools, they have a group that's just basically raising money to support the basketball team or the football team.
Yeah.
So let's take basketball, for example, and let's say I'm at a high major school, and my group goes out and raises $10 million. Now, the collective, with the player and maybe the player's rep, the parents, make an agreement as to how much that player is going to get out of that pot for that year. So at some schools, the top player might make $1 million. The last guy in the team, the 12th man in the team, might get $50,000, which is still a lot of money.
Still a lot of money for a college student, man. That's eating ramen noodles every day.
He ain't eating that no more.
Now, football, I mean, you're talking more money. You're talking maybe the quarterback, like some of the guys on your list, on that list, might be getting $2.5 million, $3 million for the year.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Now,
so the list that I pulled up, you're saying that these are projections for their endorsement deals and social media accounts and all the kind of stuff put together. This is not from the collective.
No, the collective, like I said, is basically paying them to play that particular sport.
Okay.
All right. Above and beyond what they're getting through that from the collective, they may have their agents now get involved, and they go out and get them a sneaker deal, or they get them a clothing deal. That's above and beyond.
Right.
Wow. So that $1 million could now become $2 or $3 million. In football, that $2 million could become $5 million. So you could get a kid in college that could end up making $3, $4, $5 million in a given year.
Honestly, if this was around in the 2000s or the 90s, I'm looking at guys like Kobe Bryant coming straight out of high school, some Kevin Garnett's. I'm talking about some Amari Stoudemire's, like having shoe deals before they even get the NBA. At this point, it wouldn't be 4 or 5 million. We would be talking about like 19, 20, maybe even 30 million.
Well, those guys now here's the deal too.
I don't know about that much.
Bro. No, I don't know about that much either.
No, want to know why? Want to know why I say that?
No, why?
Look at the trends. How much were NBA players getting paid in the 80s?
Not 19 million.
No, but listen, I'm saying it was a lot less than now. What happens is, watch what happens in a few years with the NIL. The money's going to start growing. It's going to start, because players are going to start demanding more. They're going to say, well, I have another avenue. Something else is going to be competitive. Well, I don't need to go to college and make this money. I can go here and go straight here. You see what I'm saying? There's always going to be competition that drives this money up. It's going to be higher and higher every year.
Well, I don't know. Either that or they're going to have to do something to actually, I mean, they've got to try and figure out a way to
scale it back
decrease
a bit,
it, which is going to be even more difficult because once you let that horse out the barn,
right,
it's almost
You're talking about basically putting
a
cap on it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, or figure just. I mean, I remember when we used to have meetings as coaches, we'd say, okay, like I one year proposed that everybody get that a school, for example, was making all this money on, let's say, selling jerseys and selling whatever it was, getting on TV, that there'd be that the money that money would go into a pot, and that money would end up going to the players that played. Everybody would get an equal piece if they graduated. See, I always felt like tie it into graduation. That went out the window. That never flew.
Yeah, that would have been that was a good idea.
I know, it was a great idea.
Because now the students are incentivized basically to graduate.
To stay and graduate.
You know? Then again, you kind of shortchange the public because a lot of these players could have left early. So then you wouldn't have one and dones.
No, but in a way, you say such. I think the public would have benefited from it because because let's face it, when you get to like the tournament, all the teams becomes. I mean, it's almost like you're rooting for your neighborhood gang, so to speak. So I mean, the kids would have been in college longer. The college game would have been better, I think.
Yeah,
and they eventually would have gone to the pros. But many people would have been better prepared when they got to the pros.
Right.
Okay, that's
In fact, you might be onto something because at this point you'd probably filter out a lot of the guys who got injured early on when they first get to the pros, because a lot of teams lose money off of guys who they called quote unquote busts. By the time they get to 21, 22, they get into the league and they get injured or whatever, or their knees don't hold up. So you filter out through some of those guys also, and I think the league's happier that way too.
Well, listen. These guys on these college campuses, guys and girls on these college campuses, their stomachs are touching their back right now. They can't wait till graduation. They need to eat right now. And these colleges, these institutions are using their name, image, and likeness to make billions of dollars.
Right.
Pay them their money.
Yeah.
Pay these athletes their money that they deserve.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's basically what's happening now.
Yeah.
You know, but once again, we've got to protect those athletes as well.
Yeah.
Because that money's not going to last forever.
True.
Now, help me understand, Coach.
Yes.
So the NIL looks different in every state.
Every school.
From what I understand, every school, every state has, kind of different, I guess you would say, I don't know if you would call them procedures. Criterias. But from what I understand, as of July 2023, when people were talking about the NIL, we had every state practically in the U.S. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6, 7 states that had no law on the NIL. We had about 8 states that basically proposed the law. And then we had most of the states had signed the NIL into law, right? We had one state who repealed it. That was as of July 2023, which was Alabama. Recently, it came out August 27, 2024. There was an article from RomanoLaw.com that says, thanks to NCAA interim policy change and changes in state law, student athletes in Alabama can now be paid for use of their name, image, and likeness. This opens new opportunities for student athletes to earn money. So this just opened up, according to them, in Alabama. What was taking so long?
Well, I probably what was taking so long was that, when this whole thing, when amateur athletics became professional athletics, there were and there still are some guys that just didn't buy it and didn't want to buy it.
Mm-hmm.
So there were coaches that basically either got out of coaching or serious, or okay, or
you funny, bro.
Seriously, there were guys that basically said, I can't coach in this climate. I can't coach guys who are making more than me.
Ooh.
I can't coach guys that are being paid because I'm afraid they're not going to be hungry and want to continue to play the way.
Well, they won't listen to you.
Oh,
they're too cocky. They got money. You coaching millionaires now. I don't think that makes a difference, because if you go to any sports organization, you go to NBA, NFL, NHL, whatever, players always get paid more than coaches. So what's the problem?
Well, not in college, they weren't.
Yeah, but what's the problem?
No, well, once again, the problem was that most coaches didn't think they could coach players that were being paid, and that were and especially if they were making more money,
right?
Then because if you're the coach, I'm the coach, and let's say I did a bad job and I recruited the wrong kid, and all of a sudden he comes in one day and says, I ain't paying you no mind. I make more money than you do. Now you got to say, listen, I'm in the wrong profession here.
Right. As a coach, though, think about some of your best players or some of your worst players.
Okay.
Imagine they're getting paid $2 million, $3 million, $5 million. How do you feel as a coach?
Well, once again, the only time it would bother, I think, a coach is if he felt or she felt that player's performance was lessened. Mm-hmm. That player wasn't performing up to their level, or that player now all of a sudden, even more so than usual, wanted to play for him or herself ahead and above of the team. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the game, the bottom line is you want to win.
Right.
And you want to win the championship, and you want to be the very best that you can. If you play at the top level, your number one goal should always be to be number one.
Right.
Period.
Yeah. Do you think this the whole NIL deal should have raised coaches' salaries too? Maybe it did. I don't know.
Man, they making millions and millions of dollars in the coaching realm right now. Nick Saban was making over $10 million a year to coach football.
Mm.
Listen, a lot of these guys, and here's why I believe, in my humble opinion, first of all, Alabama, in the state of Alabama, football is a religion.
That's right.
So Nick Saban essentially is the governor of Alabama.
Or the Pope.
Right?
It don't matter who the
Pope,
governor is. Nick Saban is the governor.
Nick Saban is the governor of Alabama. So what he says goes. And I believe because the playing field was leveled now since the NIL have come in. Alabama was always paying players. Since the beginning of the time, since Bear Bryant, I'm sure they was greasing the pockets of those players in Alabama. All right. Now that the playing field is a lot more level, that other schools can now come in and legally pay these players. Now you the advantage that you once had in this system, you no longer have. So now you're saying, I'm not willing to coach in this realm anymore. This is too much for me. I'm out.
Yeah. Well, you know what? You talk about the level playing field. It's level by levels. In other words, if you're a low Division I school or a mid-major, you're never going to be able to compete with the boys at the top.
So do you think the days of the Boise States and the smaller schools playing at a high level to compete for a national championship, those days are gone?
I don't think those days were ever really here. I mean, you would get a school once you get a whether it be George Mason years ago or FAU a couple years ago. Every now and then there'd be a school, this was the Catholic school in Chicago. Was it Chicago?
I don't know.
Loyola, or a couple years. Anyhow, you get a small school. Gonzaga used to be a small school.
Well, Gonzaga's a monster now.
Oh, they are. But you'd get a smaller school that would strike, the lightning would come down and, they'd be there. But it's still always 90% of the time it's going to be the big boys. It's going to be the UCLAs, the Dukes, the Kentuckys, the Miamis and football. But it's going to be the big boys.
Right.
Okay, and it's the same thing is happening with the NIL. The big boys, the playing field is level for all of those schools at that level, but it's not level for all the colleges.
Yeah,
and what's going to happen eventually is there's going to be the NCAA tournament, for example. Take basketball; it's not going to be a tournament that's even open to all the schools. It's going to be just those top schools. I mean,
it is what it is. This is business. This is a market economy, right?
It is,
and that's how it works. You got a big corporation that's going to eat up the small corporations if they can. Then you got a 1 in a million or 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 10 small corporations that hit the jackpot one way or another and start to climb the ladder and can begin to compete a little bit, right? But at the end of the day, that's just business. That's what it's going to be.
I think the question is, Coach, is who do you pay? You have these collectives that raised all of these funds to pay these players.
Yeah.
The question is, which player do you pay? Like, who are you looking for? What are the qualities that you're looking for in a player when you're recruiting them to say, I'm willing to give you X amount of millions of dollars in order for you to come on my team and play for this.
But before you answer that, though, my question is it the coach's decision on how much that player gets paid?
It's not supposed to be. It's not supposed to be. The coach is not technically involved in the collective. The coach can help to raise the money that goes into the pot. But the coach supposedly isn't the one that ends up finalizing the contract. Okay. But we know better.
But they can make recommendations. This will be my best player, so this guy needs to be on top of me. Right?
But that's a little fine line, because I've seen, and I'm sure many of us have seen, 5-star athletes who don't pan out. So you can be out of high school,
right,
and you're a 5-star athlete, but you get to the college level and it's just not working for you. It's not, and you have some 2 or 3-star athlete, or even 0-star athlete. Look at Cam Ward from University of Miami, the quarterback. He came out of high school and he was a 0-star athlete.
Sure.
And a lot of these 5-star athletes, his play on the field is superseding everything that they're doing.
Yeah.
He's the best quarterback arguably in Miami Hurricanes history, and this is his first year putting on the U on his helmet.
He's what, 7 games now?
7 games, most 300 passing yard game in school history.
Okay.
I wanted to
0-star athlete.
Wow.
Now, this is another thing that I think is really important with our discussion. How are coaches structuring their teams and their programs in this era? Let's look at basketball. Football, I think, is different because the history always has been redshirt. So you get 5 years. Okay. Basketball has now become a sport where high school kids are not really being recruited anymore. Very rarely. You get 1 or 2 exceptional kids who are the top, 10, whatever. They're being recruited. Most of the kids in college basketball programs are being recruited off of other college teams.
Transfer portal.
Yeah,
Transfer
that portal.
So I'm going to,
Don't you think that give smaller schools opportunities, though?
Not at all.
Because if they're still recruiting, they could find some diamonds in the rough.
But they got to show me the money.
So let me tell you what a lot of coaches are doing. Let me tell you, for example, I'm going to take Rick Pitino at St. John's. Rick Pitino is rebuilding St. John's. St. John's is going to have a top 5, top 10
recruiting
program.
class.
Okay, they're going to be, all of a sudden, they're going to be back where they used to be. When that guy Mike Jarvis used to coach.
Come on now, I heard that guy.
Yeah, me too.
Let's go.
And because what Rick has decided to do is he's not recruiting high school kids per se. He'll take 1 or 2, but mostly all of his players are going to come prepared. They're already going to have college, varsity, Division I experience. So he's going to basically take kids out of the portal who've already been in college, who already know what it takes to compete at the college level, to be coached at the college level. And so in essence, he's not going to be gambling on some freshman when he can basically put his money on a seasoned college athlete,
a guy who's already proven himself.
You know what I'm saying? So you take and I don't know what they're, how much they're paying their players. And if I did, I wouldn't say exactly what it is. But let's just say they get a kid that is, already established college player, and let's say he decides, I want to go play for Coach Pitino because I know he can help me get to the NBA. Mm-hmm. Well, a player like that might get $1 million. Mm-hmm. But he's not going to give $1 million to an unproven freshman,
right?
Unless it was like the kid that's at Duke this year. What's
Cooper
his name?
Flag?
I wrote his name down.
You talking about he's top number 1 basketball player?
Yeah, I wrote his name down. Let me look at my notes here.
That's Cooper. There ain't nobody better than Cooper right now. Yeah.
And here's what
program?
Duke.
Nah.
Yeah.
That boy Cooper.
You cold?
Oh yeah.
That's Cooper Flag
at
sir. Duke. Cooper Flag is the highest, is basically the highest paid freshman.
Basketball though.
Basketball.
Not football.
Basketball. And the number I saw on him was $1.4 million. Okay, not that
18 years old, 18 years
17
old.
or 18.
He's valued, I think, at 2.6.
Yeah, but here's the deal with him. The reason why he could get that kind of money was because he proved himself last summer,
right?
When he was playing against the top players in the world. Like just similar to what a college player playing at one university might be able to prove himself before he goes to a bigger school or another school where now all of a sudden he can make more money. Mm-hmm. So you're going to get some kids that might go into college at a mid-level school. Maybe they get $25,000, $50,000, okay, to play. Mm-hmm. okay, as part of their agreement. They have a great year. They transfer based on that great year. Maybe next year they make $500,000.
Right.
Maybe they make $1 million.
So you think the portal's gonna? Because first, I think the portal initially existed probably because, like, hey, if you're unhappy where you're at, if you don't feel like you're getting playtime or whatever, just go ahead and transfer to another school. But now it's like, hey, I'm building up my stock.
That's right. And the ultimate stock is the NBA.
Right.
So you play your way up to the NBA or you play your way out. But I tell you what, if you don't make it there, you better have it. You better have that college degree.
Right.
Okay.
Coach, I want to ask you this.
Yes.
I want you to take the time right now to coach these young players. All right? Coach them up and let them know right now, what are some coaches looking for, the qualities that they're actually looking for in a player to say, hey, I'm willing to give you all this NIL money.
Right.
I'm willing to invest in you and bring you into my program.
What are you looking for when you recruit?
Well, first of all, you're looking for talent. I mean, if you haven't got the talent, I can't recruit you because I got to compete against the big boys. So I'm looking for talent.
But there's a lot of talent out there.
Yes,
So
there is.
There's sometimes you see that little, it's that something.
Yeah.
What's that something you're looking for?
I was going to say, it's when I say talent, see, a lot of people, when they talk about talent, they're talking about athletic ability.
Right.
That's not talent. That's just okay, how fast you can run, how high you can jump. Talent to me is what special quality do you possess? What makes you better at what you do than anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for a kid that has a special talent.
And you can't really know what that is until you see it.
Well, you're going to see it when you recruit him, when you go evaluate, when you evaluate him at whatever level you're watching, whether you're watching a high school kid to come and play for you, you're going to you should be able to say to yourself, why do I want that particular kid?
Oh, yeah.
Is it because of his offensive ability? Is it because of his defensive ability? Is it because of just the fact that whatever team he plays on, they win? Because the bottom line is, it's all about winning. So I want to get a kid that's going to help my team win at the highest level we can be at.
I had a coach who was trying to get me to the next level. All he saw in me, for when I understood, is the fact that I listened.
Well, I was going to say, now you ask, in case
he asked me to do something, I was just like, this is what he wants. I'm gonna do that.
You want kids that want you, that want to be coached.
That's good.
By you.
That's good.
That know you just like you know them, and they know if you're a coach that's a tough son of a bee, you're a Bobby Knight type of a coach, that he can handle it, that he wants to be coached by you. Because the bottom line is, the coach's job and the coach's vision mission should be to try to get the kid to be the very best that he can be, and to get him to the highest level that he can go to. But the kid has got to want it even more than the coach.
That's real.
Coach, I would say, man, for me, I've coached, not at the level that you've coached, but I've coached at a high school level. And some of the things that I look for in my players, just being team players.
Yeah.
You gotta be a team player. And I broke down team to see like qualities that I would want to see in my player.
Sure.
That I want to bring on this team and say, you are part of this family now.
Yeah.
And we say you got to be teachable.
Yeah.
You got to be teachable. You got to be coachable, being able to listen and take what you've learned from your coach and implement it on the field. You got to be someone who naturally executes in excellence.
I like that.
You have to be working in excellence, and you hate to lose.
Yeah.
Because you're working in excellence, you just hate to lose.
Yeah.
And E can stand for eat.
There it is. You gotta eat. You gotta eat. Hey, you gotta be accountable. You gotta hold your teammates accountable, but you gotta always be someone who's willing to take constructive criticism and hold yourself accountable.
That's real.
My college coach used to always tell me, Casey, just do your 1/11th. Do your job and let everyone do the rest.
Amen.
All right? And my M, you got to be mean.
Ooh.
You got to be mean. You got to be nasty. You got to be having some grit to play this game. Off the field is one thing, but when you are on that court, when you are on that field, give me the nasty you. Give me the you that's wanting to take your competitor's head off.
I don't disagree with that. I can remember when I had a lady named Miss Berrier I worked with when I was in the Air Force. I played for the team in the Air Force. And she was such a sweet lady. She said, I'm going to come out to one of your games one time. I said, yeah, come on out and see me play. And she came out to one of the games. And I don't know what I did, but I got to work the next day. She goes, Germil, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, why? She goes, oh my gosh, you scared me when you were on the court. I was like, what are you talking about? She was like, you're not the same person. I said, what do you mean? She was like, you were just so mean.
Hey, mean and nasty.
Mean and nasty.
I said, I'm sorry I scared you. I was like, it's just part of the game.
Well,
Coach, going back to that Michael Jordan and LeBron James conversation, just for a quick second, I believe that's what we're missing in the game of basketball today and just sports in general. See, in Michael Jordan's day, man, there were no friends. There were no buddies. These guys were competitors. They were after each other. You know, Pat Riley did it like this. He said, listen, if you're going to play for the Miami Heat, I don't want you going out to dinner with these jokers. I don't want you conversing with these jokers outside of what we got going on. You want to talk to somebody, talk to your teammates.
Yeah.
And I think it's a lost art that we're losing in the game. These guys are too buddy, too nice to each other.
Well, you know what?
They don't want to hurt each other's feelings.
No. You mentioned Michael Jordan. And you asked me a question about, what is a coach looking for? And I remember I had the opportunity to coach Michael Jordan in the the McDonald's All-American game. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. But all I know is this. He was the most competitive person that I had ever seen other than Patrick Ewing up to that point in time.
What was he ranked then?
I don't know. I mean, he was obviously he became a high school All-American, but most people didn't know even who he was because social media was not really in existence then. But I tell you what, no matter what we did, he wanted to be first.
I love it.
If we were running sprints, he would tackle you to win, to get to the finish, to get to the end line before you.
Mean.
If whatever we were doing, he wanted to do it better than anybody else. He competed in every single drill and tried to win every single drill. That's what I remember coming home and telling my high school team about Michael Jordan.
How long is that experience?
That was only a week.
A week.
It was a week.
For that week, you're coaching Michael Jordan. You say, hey, Mike, fall back. What does Mike say?
How fast? Is that all you want me to do?
Teachable.
Oh, yeah. Teachable. Always striving for excellence.
Come on now.
Accountable.
Come on.
Because you had to follow his lead. And man, you talk about mean. He fit your team to a T, Case.
Nice.
Trust me.
Hey, you heard what Mike said. He said someone came up to him and said, is there an I in team? He said, no, but there's a win. No, I'm just joking. He said, there's a me.
I was like, what?
He said, there's an I in win.
Yeah, he said there's an I in win. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
Yeah. I can believe that.
That's so good.
Oh, yeah. But anyhow, we don't want to, I think we're still on track. Because all of this stuff is relatable. And, but once again, it all comes back to winning, comes back to putting together a team that can win whether you're paying them or not, whether they got N.I.L. or not. And I was thinking about the N.I.L. And I was thinking about one of my St. John's teams, a team that had Ron Artest, that had Eric Barkley, Bootsy Thornton, LeVar Pastel, had all these, exceptional players. these guys would play like the band of brothers on the court, but they would fight like cats and dogs off the court. And I'm just grateful that we didn't have the NIL back then, because these guys, I mean, they probably would have told everybody what they were making. That's the other thing. Did we mention the fact that basically when these kids sign these contracts to play at these schools and make the money they make, they basically have to do an NDA, a non-disclosure.
Non-disclosure, yeah.
And they're not supposed to share the amount of money they make with their teammates because of the problems that could cause,
of course,
for everybody.
Yeah.
And because players don't all make the same amount of money at most schools. Some schools probably it's closer than others, but everybody gets paid. And the way college programs can basically continue to get more kids to come to their schools is by making sure that their players get paid on time. So if it's the 15th of the month that you're supposed to get your check, that check's you get paid.
First and the 15th.
Okay? Whatever date it is, you get your check. Because kids will basically share that kind of, they're not supposed to share the amount, but they will share whether or not they get paid or not.
Right.
And if a kid doesn't get paid in this climate, the way that the rules are now set up,
portal,
they'll leave.
I'm out of here.
They'll go. You know, was a kid that was in the quarterback at, was it Nevada? UNLV. Didn't get paid. He left. He gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so you not only got to pay him, but you got to pay him on time.
But he ain't signed a contract though.
Huh?
He didn't sign the contract though.
Well, he was, in some ways that was smart, and in some ways it wasn't, because that gave the school an out too. But they don't have to. But it's not guaranteed money. Okay, and it's not guaranteed that if you get whatever you get in 2024, you're going to get in 2025. Because if you underperform, then guess what? You're not getting that same amount of money the following year.
Yeah, that's how it should go. I want to close out, but I want to ask one question before we go. Okay. Actually, it's a two-tiered question. It's kind of like a twin question. What do you think in a few years will be right about the NIL? And then the second question is, what do you think in a few years will be wrong about the NIL in terms of the development of the players when they go to the next level, that kind of thing? What effect will be good? And what do you think will be, just like almost toxic in their development?
Well, let me start out with what I think will be good as it relates to kids going to the next level. And I want to preface that by saying, and I used to always tell the kids when I was recruiting them, that less than 1/3 of 1% of you guys that are playing basketball are going to go to the NBA. So you ain't going to the odds are so stacked up against you ever getting to that level. But with the NIL and with college now being a professional sport, and it is, the players that make it to that next level are going to be much better prepared to handle the professional level than they are now. So it's basically going to prepare, it's going to even be a better prepping field. Yeah,
a better segue for them.
For the kids going to the pros.
Because they're getting paid now and they're used to the money?
Because they're already professionals. Okay. So it's like they don't have to make that next adjustment. If they've learned how to handle themselves, continue to be motivated, and handle what they have, then they're more likely to be able to handle more at the next level. You'll be able to feed them more at the next level.
And you might even say that it's good in terms of the athletes that don't go to the next level, if they were able to get paid somewhat at college. You know what I mean? It gives them a head start in life also.
Well, if they stay in school and they're smart enough to say, I'm going to get it all. I'm going to take whatever money I can get. I'm going to invest it. I'm going to learn how to deal with it. And I'm going to get my degree. For those kids that stay and get it, they can get it all. Then it's a home run. It's a home run. The problem is that most kids aren't going to do that.
Right.
because like Kay said, they're not prepared. They weren't trained at home.
Right.
Or they got a coach that basically says, hey, I don't care what you do with your money.
Coach, I just think it's a slippery slope, man.
It is.
I think once you start paying these players that amount of money and giving it to them that fast without educating these players, then you can actually ruin someone's life by doing that. I see it's even crept into the high school realm.
Yeah.
These high school players are signing NIL deals
sure.
now. And I won't even be surprised later on down the line if we see little Pop Warner Little League teams getting NIL money, these little 8-year-old phenoms running around the field making $80 a week, getting their lunch money, you know? I wouldn't be surprised.
My son's 4 years old. I'm looking for like 15, 16 years from now, I'm eating.
You see?
Oh, you know what, man? That's bad, but you might have something there. Who's the player now? Because we should mention his name. I wrote it down here too. Let me look at my notes. Who's the player in Utah that's in prep school that's making, I want to say...
Well, he goes to
he's making
Brigham Young University.
He's going to possibly go to Brigham Young. AJ DeBansta, I believe, is at Utah Prep.
What sport?
In basketball. And he's making $750,000.
What? High school?
High school.
Wow.
He's projected to be a $4 to $5 million person.
Wow.
He's he potentially could be the first, the number one high school player. Okay. So...
And he's going to BYU?
He's probably going to, because BYU's pot.
$4 million, right?
Huh?
$4 million?
That's what he's projected to possibly
$4 million. AJ
DeBansta.
Yeah, that's a hard name to say.
I think he's from New England. I think he's from Boston.
Well, that name don't say New England. That name says Africa or something.
Yeah, probably, by way of.
That's that Mormon money, though.
Yeah. But they've got a huge, like we talk about the money pots.
Oh yeah,
they got an unlimited pot of money, and supposedly their payroll, or their bankroll is somewhere 20-30 million.
Wow.
So they were high school kids. Years ago, you bought a high school kid by giving them sneakers or McDonald's or
whatever. They feel like they won the lottery then.
Yeah,
right.
And they did, some of them, but. The only good thing, the other good thing is at least now it's out in the open. And
you don't have to sneak around.
You're not doing something illegal.
Right.
Where years ago it was totally illegal.
They legalized it.
Yeah, but
legalized it.
Yeah,
right. When I played college ball and I went on my recruiting visits, I thought I was making it. I was doing it big when they would take me out to a nice steak dinner.
That's right.
And tell me, order whatever I want on the menu. I said, I'm from the hood. You asking me to order whatever I want on this menu? Let's go get this.
And here you are think you're winning, while the same guy who's feeding you is making all this money on top of you.
Come on.
Well, he deserved what he was making too. He deserved that. Let me tell you, I don't.
Coming from the guy who was making all the money.
Well, I tell you what, I needed somebody to teach me how to handle it,
right?
Because I didn't do a good job with that. But anyhow, that's a whole nother story. That's another conversation for another time. But you know what? Times have changed,
right?
And all of us have to be ready to change with the times,
right?
And it's also a reason why right now you see coaches leaving the game. Coach Bennett just left Virginia. He said he can't deal with this NIL stuff. So some guys just going to walk away from it. Other guys are going to adapt to it, and they're going to make it work.
Oh, yeah.
And it probably would take even more work to make it work.
Right.
Because it was probably a lot easier when the kids had absolutely nothing.
Right.
So you're going to probably have to be even a better coach today than you were yesterday.
That's true. So what's wrong with it? What do you see? What can you foresee is going to be?
I think that the problems will be if you don't adjust and you don't adapt. Because I remember a general in the Army once told me, it's all about you've got to adjust, and you got to adapt.
That's it.
In order to overcome. Adjust and adapt in order to overcome.
That's good.
So if coaches don't adjust and they don't adapt, there's no way they're going to overcome the amount of money and the influence. You know, also, I mean, let's face it, you're now dealing with not only the players making money, you now have to deal with an element that you didn't have to deal with before, and that's agents. Because they were not it was illegal for them to have agents.
Right.
Now they have agents. That adds a whole nother dimension.
That's true.
And I know as a coach, I you know, you talk about kids coming from homes where there was one or less parents in the home. Some homes didn't have anybody. It was the kid. And the hardest thing sometimes was dealing with kids' parents. Okay? And, you know, I remember, I mean, I can tell you, you know, some of the best teams I ever had was when I had a lot of foreign players. Because I didn't have to deal with the parents. Now, you got to deal not only with the kid, but you got to deal with their agents. And then you got to deal with their parents.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their parents, okay, they're the ones that are trying to get the money.
Of course.
Okay?
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids, the money that they get paid now, if they're not of, you know, say 21
go
or
to
older,
their parents, yeah.
their parents are handling it.
That's real. As it should.
Yeah. So, Coach, you have any closing remarks?
Well, the only thing I want to say is that, you know, I love the game. I love the game of I love college athletics, and I just hope that it doesn't eventually ruin college athletics. I mean, I've changed a little bit of my opinion about things like the portal. I do think there has to be limits placed on how many times a kid can transfer.
I agree.
I still think there should be a certain window that players have to compete in college, and those windows should be determined by what's going to give them the best chance to get an education and to graduate with a meaningful degree. Because there are some schools you get a degree
in bowling,
in bowling or knitting.
Yeah,
and it doesn't mean a damn thing. So you want to see a kid get a degree, but a meaningful degree that can prepare him for life after sport.
Yeah. That's real.
You know what I'm saying?
Man, this was good.
I love every second.
I feel full right now.
Oh yeah.
And I learned a lot. This is really good.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah. And listen, if you're out there and you have any knowledge about the NIL that you feel like we didn't cover today, y'all go ahead and type it in the comments. I want to hear some discussions. I want to learn some more about the NIL, whether you think it's good, whether you think it's bad. Also, don't forget to like this channel, subscribe to this channel, hit the notification bell so you can get notified whenever we drop a new episode, and share it with somebody, because that's how we spread the word. All right. So we appreciate y'all. We love y'all. I can't wait to put these new reels out there to see y'all discuss and go at it. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a good time. Once again, this is the Coach Mike Jarvis podcast. Time out with Coach Mike Jarvis. So go ahead and do your signature out, Coach.
Oh, well, let me just say this. You know, when I hear the word T, I used to think technical, because I got a lot of T's in my
got teed up a lot.
I was awful. My poor mother used to say, "Oh, Michael, why did you get a technical foul tonight?" And I'd say, "Mom, because of my temper, because I had a bad temper." But I want to also just repeat. I want to tell everybody that's listening, that's watching, that, you know, this podcast will be as good as everybody makes it, and that's the audience. I want to know if there are issues, if there are things that they would like for us to talk about, let us know what they are. Also, give us some feedback. Don't be afraid to tell us what you liked and disliked.
Right.
Okay, because we want to grow and we want to learn. We want to be the best leaders that we can be in this podcast business.
Yeah.
Okay, so help us grow. We'll try to help you as well.
That's real.
Can I say it?
Please.
Time out.
technical file.